Shikamaika today is a man called Jeremiah Muuo. He sent us a WhatsApp Nation video 2 weeks ago, and we said, huyu jamaa
lazima kuje.
Huyu jamaa Shikamaika. Huyu jamaa What did he say in that video?
I can't misquote him when he's right here. For once, it's the other way around. We're working from video to Mariam, not Mariam to video.
This is the other way around.
This is the other way around.
Jeremiah, good morning.
Good morning to you, Eric.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Yeah. Janet sends her greetings. She says, I'd have loved to meet Jeremiah, but unfortunately I have to handle 1 or 2 issues.
Yeah,
but she left today's quote with Mariam.
Right.
So Mariam is going to give you the quote.
Okay. Right. It's by Lebogang Mashile, a South African poet, says, until the pain is named, it cannot be healed.
Indeed. Until the pain is named, it cannot be healed. It's until we discover what's the issue, we cannot tackle the issue. Until we identify the problem, we can never come up with a solution.
100%.
Yes.
Everybody has kila mtu ameshika hata ina interpretations this is it.
Yes.
We need to figure out shida iko wapi so that we heal.
Yes. In fact, let's do something a bit different today. Wangeshi and Rose, at our past, let's play Jeremiah's WhatsApp Nation video. Yeah. But what did you say on that video?
Basically, on that video, I introduced myself, said the space that I own, which is Semezana Live, with my co-host Mika Mani, and what we do, where we have conversations for change aimed at coming up with solutions for our nation. Yes.
So why is this platform?
This platform, basically, we decided to go live because everybody has gone with the norm of a podcast, which is pre-recorded. We've always had X spaces, and looking at last year's situation, the X space was a bit regulated. At times, the link won't work. So we had to go the university way, where lecturers use webinars via Google Meet. So every fortnightly on Thursdays, there is a Google webinar that happens to be shared around, and young people get to join the space. But currently, we are to have a conversation, or rather a dialogue, whereby we get a conversation out of the feeling on the ground. What we see happening on TikTok, on Instagram, on the different WhatsApp statuses in terms of the memes people share. Yeah. And then now through that, it informs the conversation that we're going to have.
Okay.
Yes.
First of all, love that your interpretation of core ground is WhatsApp statuses and TikTok and Instagram. That is your ground, right?
Yes.
But young people spend a lot of time on social media. TikTok especially has become this amazing phenomenon and a great tool for public education, for civic education, for entertainment, kila kitu. It's a search engine, it's a form of media, all in one. But then when you say there's X spaces, there's TikTok lives, there's this, but I'm going the webinar route. Why? Is it because why? I can guess, but let me hear it.
Basically, the webinar route, it's a space that is number one untapped because everybody is on an X space every day. Everybody is releasing a podcast on Spotify every time. And through that, we saw the webinars are more engaging because it's alive. And even in as much as Gmail allows you to record a meeting, we said we're not going to record it because we want to have, authentic engagement with the young people, where if you feel you can't, unmute your mic and speak, you still have a chat box to type in your feelings, and then we are able to interact with it. And it's also cheap because looking at comrades back at uni, bundles are expensive. So to watch even a YouTube video, looking at the bundles, it's quite expensive. But with a Google webinar with like 50 MBs, you'll tune in for like an hour and you're able to engage with us. So we went the webinar, we looking at all those elements.
Okay.
Yes.
You said this is about conversations for change, and you're targeting the youth, and you're having dialogues. When did you have your last Semezana?
Last week on Thursday, titled Shifty Nation, where we're looking at the next shift immediately after the demonstrations that happened the previous day on 25th. Yes.
How many people joined?
We had around 40 people tune in. Relatively, we get around 40 to 100 people tune in on a live call. Yes.
And then, so how do you run it? How do you moderate? How do you curate those conversations? Do you predetermine that today we are the ones? But they, your co-host is Mike?
Mick Amani.
Mick Amani.
Yes.
Mick Amani.
Yes, Mick Amani.
And your name is Jeremiah?
Muuo.
Muuo.
Yes.
Muuo is peace.
Peace in Kamba.
And Amani is?
Peace in Swahili.
Yes.
Nice.
It's their money.
Mlipatana wapi? Tunaitwa? Let's be friends.
It's a funny story because we are all members of Kenya Model United Nations, and so I was a third year when he joined uni back in JKUAT, and so through the space we got to start having political conversations with him. Every time there was something coming up in terms of the current affairs of the country, you know, because KMUN is a platform where young people engage with the current affairs of the world. But now when it comes to the country, we really connect so much in our conversation, and even now the word semezana, it came out of that. Because tunasemezana. Exactly. Like so that's how now the space got to come in, and then we were able to consolidate our efforts and come up with a space.
So back to my question I was asking. So how do you curate? How do you decide the topic for conversation today?
Yeah.
And how do you curate those conversations? Do you start the peaceful men talking to themselves and then inviting the others to join in, or how do you run it?
So basically, first of how we settle on a topic for discussion, as I've said, we look at the feeling on the ground. Remember, it happens fortnightly, meaning we skip a Thursday. So through the process of the 2 weeks, we're able to see that this dialogue has gone too long on X. On TikTok, these are the videos that people are making, especially on ABCD issue.
Right.
And then through that, we are able to sit down, fabricate a topic, which is catchy for Gen Zs, because today we won't come and say youth dialogue, and you expect people to be intrigued by such a topic. So we also style it to make it
I'm
Gen
sorry.
Z oriented.
There's a government officer somewhere who has been asked to come up with a program for a day. Na topic yake, I promise you, ni youth dialogue.
Wow. I never knew about that, but unfortunately it's not
guaranteed. Guaranteed. There's akiandika youth dialogue up kwa like tumefanya kazi.
Yeah.
It is self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Youth
and dialogue.
But is it
Why don't you
intriguing? Yeah. So basically, we also try tailor the topic to be Gen Z catchy, and now we center in the main objective, because down under our topic we now share the objective of the discussion.
Right.
For example, we had the red lipstick campaign happening nationally, and so one time we had an edition where we had the red lipstick as our title, but deep down we went ahead to explain more on what's a red lipstick campaign.
What is a red lipstick campaign?
The red lipstick campaign is basically a solidarity campaign of standing in with the women in our country as we try, number one, recognize the fallen victims of femicide. I personally lost a classmate, Rita Waeni, earlier 2024. May her soul rest in peace. And also the fallen women who have been killed, because femicide is the intentional killing of women, by the virtue of them just being women. So the red lipstick campaign is a campaign that stands up to recognize the victims of femicide and the survivors of gender-based violence, and stand with them.
Right.
And also make awareness, because also there are people who are not aware of the issues on the ground.
When young people are having political conversations, sometimes they get dismissed because they don't do it in the way that it has been done traditionally, right? So the English may not be perfect. You could be doing it in Sheng. You need to memify it and make it cool and make it engaging. And sometimes people then use that as a way to discount young people at the table, because it's like, I'm not sure cartoons, you know. What are your thoughts on that?
I'll say every society shifts with every generation that comes in. Right now we are having ballerina cappuccino, something that's coming from Gen Alpha, and as a Gen Zs we are like, what is this? But it's a shift in the society.
Good Lord, what is a ballerina cappuccino?
Apparently it's like a slang. So I saw from TikTok, it's more like a TikTok trend that Gen Alphas are now doing. It has very funny names, but they are easily understanding it, because I try to even go to the comment section. I'm like, what is this? So
it's not a type of cappuccino?
No, because
suddenly you're too old.
Suddenly,
I'm also too old.
I was very clever. Just a minute ago, I was very clever. Now,
you're ancient.
I'm ancient. Yeah.
Wow.
And so through that, every generation comes with things that work for them, that address their needs, that address also their entertainment, that address their dialogues at the same time. So for us to be dismissed because of our style of working, our style of expression, I would say it's a misunderstanding, and definitely there is a very big gap between the the older generation, and us, the oldies and the Gen Zs, simply because they don't understand. It's like today, us going to a protest or even being called an activist. Your parent is like, no, what do you mean you're called an activist? Because for them, the perception they have of an activist is a person who is beating up the government, who is doing something very wrong according to the constitution.
And the other side of it is that an activist will then become a target, and they will go into detention, detention without trial. They'll end up in Nyayo torture chambers, and death, right?
Yeah.
Or long-term prison sentences.
Yes.
So, I mean, I don't want my child to end up there. So you tell me activist, I tell you,
no.
Skiza, Skiza, I did not bring you up.
Yeah.
So you end up there. Yeah.
Yes, and so through that, I think there is very much need for us now to be able to bridge in the gap and have that intergenerational exchange of the oldies getting to understand we as Gen Zs. Yeah.
Who are the oldies now?
The oldies,
from
the
where
baby
you sit,
boomers,
Jeremiah.
is the baby boomers, the Gen X, and some bit of millennials. So Mariam, she's in between.
I am just swinging my way.
Yeah. I'm heading towards the oldies, Mariam.
I am heading towards the oldies 100%. Because I am the last millennial, so technically a zillennial. But I do wonder, is it necessary to bridge this generational gap? Because we talk about it a lot, but is it truly necessary?
Yes, it is.
Sometimes when I hear bridge, it's almost like we should sound as the same, think the same. What does bridging really mean? And is it uniformity? Uniformity in thought, uniformity in ideology, uniformity in all of that? Or is there something else? Is there, like something big that's anchoring this bridging of the gap, and there's still the individual generations just being individual generations?
All right. Yeah. I would say it's basically unique, whereby today Latif with his unique ideologies, and me as a Gen Z with my unique ideologies as Jeremiah, and the center goal, which is good governance, we're able to come in with his style of thinking, my style of thinking, but end up in the same destination without clashing. Yeah, because the problem that we've seen is, Nyinyi vijana, you're going to the streets to protest. You're wasting our businesses. You are looting and vandalizing. But generally, that's not the feeling of every young person. Actually, that is not what we are trying to aim at. We're all trying to aim at good governance. And you as Latif, when you show up in a public baraza in Kamkunji, still speaking on good governance, it's all centering to the same destination. Yes.
There's this thing that I've said it like 2 or 3 times this week. I really worry about echo chambers.
Okay.
Even when we say millennials, Gen Z, boomers, Gen X, whoever, they're not uniform.
You're profiling a certain...
Yes, in thinking, in action, in ideology, in everything. So when we say Gen Z-led protests, a finance bill, when we say young people are unhappy with the administration, do you think that's really the situation across the board? Because again, you host these webinars, and you speak to young people, you're able to get a feel of that, but is that also representative of the country?
I'll say from the young people on the ground, it is the feeling. We are not heading in the right direction as a country, and they feel that there is need for change. There is need for good governance, there is need for youth inclusion, because looking at an analogy once I had in my development class for my undergrad, something called evidence. Evidence is the ability to use data to inform the needs of the people. And unfortunately, looking at the current regime that is in service, they tend to make us understand that, yes, we're aware of what is happening on the ground, but with the information they get from the young people, it is not addressing our needs. So through that, you find that this information is sidelined, and even the representatives that we give as young people to go represent us, they end up being co-opted, and the entire youth movement is disillusioned. And so through that, you find that it is not now representing what the feeling of the entire country is. And even looking at what has been happening with, for example, the protests. There are people who are very willing to show up in the protest, not for the vibes. They're there to advocate for change. Like you've sat in your house and you're like, wow, is this what they are saying? Man, no, I have to go out on the streets and, make my voice heard and represented. But at the same time, there is a Gen Z also who is in the house and they're like, what's up? Man, this country is too big for you to fix. Just stay at home. Me, I don't want to be killed by the popos, you see. And unfortunately, you find there is a divide That's why I would say even right now, as we talk about Gen Zs, I feel like, or even the youths, the things that they're advocating for, we should stop giving a blanket conclusion on it.
Right.
Because I feel like we have Gen Z premium and we have Gen Z by the virtue of age. Yeah, because the premium ones understand what needs to be done. This one is called a Gen Z because we are 21 years old. But your feeling on the ground is not towards change. Actually, you're even beating it.
So then are we moving away from defining Gen Z as an age group, which is what it is, in the dictionary sense,
is an age group,
and then to defining it as an ideology? Because then we've also hosted so many people here who, when they were Gen Z, they were Gen Z, right? And even now they still have the spirit and they still carry it. So then do we call them Gen Z because their ideology is very much like that? Or do we stick to the age definition?
Which is what? Which is, if we say ideology, are we saying political wokeness and engagement and activism, but also that political wokeness with a certain mindset? Because then, if all of you are thinking this way,
right?
RMG and such, then you're Gen Z. If you are saying KBB, then you're not Gen Z.
Not RMG.
Looking at the context of our country, we've had Gen Z since 1997 till 2012. All those years, the term Gen Z has never even come to the media the way it has come since last year. So it came out of the context of political wokeness and consciousness and standing for a certain ideology, which is good governance generally. So looking at now the feeling and the context of our country, Gen Z no longer means by virtue of an age group. It's now more of virtue of what do you stand for as a young person in Kenya. Yes, so I'll say we need to change the definition because it is also not cast on stone. It goes on changing.
I hear you, and that's what I'm asking. So now we've agreed. Let's move from age. From the fact that you're in an age set or generation higher. It is what you stand for. Now, when what you stand for does not align with what I stand for, but we are in the same age bracket, do you become Gen Z or do I become Gen Z, or are we both Gen Z?
We're both Gen Zs because looking at Kenya as a democracy, we are all eligible to have our own ideologies. But
are you sure I am not goon? And you Gen Z?
You are goon if I am Gen Z, and what you stand for is once you show up on the protest, for Jeremiah is I'll lift that banner, whistle up and say good governance. And for you as Latif, who is a representative of a goon, you're here, me as Gen Z in that protest, I'm here to destroy business in the CBD. That's your ideology. That's your contribution to the protest, because looking at protests and demos.
What if I don't come out?
If you don't come out...
What if I don't come out or I do not post? Because I've also seen that cancel culture,
there is
right?
cancellation culture now.
It's that we are in the same, but you're not posting. You're not, so you're not Gen Z. You're not one of us.
You have 10K followers and you only want to show them your cappuccino and not the ballerina one. You know, whatever.
Why aren't you mentioning the thing that the rest of us are mentioning?
That's what I've said. In as much as now we all stand to different ideologies, for me, I'm going to be quiet. Another one is going to speak up. For the context of our country, Gen Z is more led by the virtue of what do you stand for. And so through that, I would say you become a Gen Z, yes, with your different opinions on the feeling on the ground, because we all can also be uniform. But looking at the majority who are speaking in one voice and ideologies, that is what defines us as Gen Z. For you, we'll term you as a young person in the country.
A young person in the country.
By statistics, you're a young person in the country. The way, like even right now, looking at the conversations on TikTok, for example, like right now, we have, for example, ladies. And ladies, we have Mdenge, we have Dame, we have Abadi. They're all ladies, but because of how maybe they dress or even how they speak, there is Mariam who is a badi, and there is this one who is a Mdenge.
But ukisikiza my playlist, please ni Mdenge. Let me tell you.
Una retaliate. So that's now also translates to how a Gen Z right now is being defined in the country. And as much as the opinions are different, but the virtue of us standing, because you even sit down with Wazae on Amatatu, and the leko kijana ongei ka Gen Z, mbona unaongea hivi kuhusu, taifa ama serikali? Vijana wenzako, they are saying ABCD, hao ndo ma Gen Z. That's the understanding right now the country is having.
Augustus says, Jeremiah, my nephew, go on, champion. I had to buy data to watch this conversation.
Hey. Thank you so much.
That's Motiso, your uncle.
Yeah.
Wesley says, go, Jeremiah, really proud of you. Okay. Mercy Amani says, go, cheering you on. Yes, Jeremy, go, champ. That's E-Pesa Hub. And then Paul Maina says, very healthy initiative by the duo. Do you intend to run for political seats so as to change from within?
Wow, it's funny how this is a conversation we've been having with my co-host Mick. Yes, we do, because when we are looking at aiming change as young people, and we are saying we want to fagia wote. Okay, fagia wote. What next? We saw our president recently make his remarks and saying, you're saying one time, saying Ruto must go where? It means if I am to go, there has to be a replacement.
Go how?
For me in the village.
Yeah, hear me asked go how.
Also go how.
Uber.
There is the constitutional provisions of how a president should go home, either by term limit or by death, ABCD, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
So for us as young people and for me as an individual, if I am to say fagia wote, then that means there has to be an initiative through me. True. Either I stand up for an elective seat come 2027 or I back someone up. Back in the village, I think that's the first place to fagia wote, because the legislative house is, for the feeling I have as a young person, they failed us from the county assemblies to the National Assembly and the Senate, looking at the term they've served in the last 3 years. And so for us as young people, as long as it's 18 and above, we are there.
18 and above, we're there.
Yes.
Sometimes, like if we had a voter registration drive happening right now, I think the numbers would be massive. What I do worry is that then when things calm down, right, we lose momentum, and then we'll find ourselves, it's 2027, we haven't registered in droves, or we haven't joined those political parties, or we're not running for those seats. So for me, it's a question of how do we keep that sustained momentum, especially when sometimes it feels fickle. And I think someone put it nicely, there's no underlying, joint ideology, genuinely. Want good governance? Fantastic. Our RMG, I love that. Thank you so much for putting it in such a nice way. You can say RMG, but if there's no finance bill to go out and protest against, if there's no June 25th to commemorate, then there's a loss of momentum.
I'll say, one, we've seen deliberate efforts from the status quo to disillusion the youth movement. Recently, I was in a convening in a certain institution like the day before yesterday, and there was this political leader. She's actually serving in the government, and it was a conversation for young people to come and speak on a matter that is in the country, but quite unfortunate. It was a very brief conversation, and looking at what they were coming to talk to us about, they never even addressed the issue. And then come to the last of the meeting, handouts start being distributed. And I sit down and see young people, these are not Gen Zs, young people.
No, I'm kidding. I like the word vijana, let me not use it.
Vijana scramble for handouts. And it got me thinking, all right, these are academias. These are the people we're expecting come 2027. They are going to change our parents in the village who get handouts. And this is a city where we are blanketing everyone as a Gen Z. But here there are 400 plus scrambling for handouts. Where are we heading to in 2027? Now, do these people even have voters card at the moment? Some of them, because we've ever done an edition on the same, they were thinking it's until the IBC announces, now come and register, is when you can be able to go and get your voters card. But that is not the case, on the ground.
You can
as long as you have your
today,
ID, even today.
Without an IBC commission in place.
You still can get a voter's card. So we had to have to disseminate that information to the people to make them understand. And looking at how time is not on our side as young people, because it's only next year remaining and a few months for this year.
True.
Less than even. And looking at the timeline that we have, there is much work to be done, especially in prompting young people to go and vote. Because for me, 2022, I had the voter's card, but I remember that morning I wake up and I'm like, Mom, even if we go and vote, this government is going to choose however they want, because that's not it's not going to count when I vote or not, but she was like, you know what, still go and cast your ballot. But even looking currently at what is happening in the country, still young people are there. They're like, even if I vote, what makes a difference? But there is a difference in the numbers. We saw the hashtags during the protests, sitting in numbers. Once there is numbers and they are evident even on the portal, because I've seen people make TikToks, that day will be on the screen counting the votes one by one with our calculators. We're able to see the translation of, we have 6 million new registered voters who are young people. Now let's translate the numbers to the votes that are coming in.
Right.
So come 2027, I think there is need for us to go and register as voters, in as much as there has been a barrier, because a lot of people have lost their IDs in the protest, unfortunately. And when it comes to not getting a new ID, there is a 1,000 to be paid.
Yes. Actually, the 1,000 was suspended.
It was waived.
Yeah.
It's waived, actually. But still, the process is not as efficient as it used to be, for sure.
Yeah.
And I remember very distinctly, before this, I hosted a show with Brian Aseli called The Morning Fix. And November last year, the year before, 2024, 23, sorry, I'd lost my ID, went to a Huduma Center because someone had said, Huduma Center Kibra, so efficient. And I went to a Huduma Center, it was super efficient. Like I always say, they gave me a ring light, I looked good, they let me wear my earrings, and I got that ID in 2 weeks. The text came in, I'm like, fantastic. They said 2 weeks, 10 days later, I get a text. A few months later, Brian loses his ID. I'm like, let me tell you where you go.
This is a place.
You go to Huduma Kibra.
Yeah.
He goes, I think it took him 8 months of just pushback, using the passport as an ID. I promise you.
Yeah.
And this is before, this is now during the...
Did they give him a ring light?
Well, picha lipigwa.
With ring light?
Yes, with ring light.
Na aliva nini?
Earrings. Kila kitu.
How he wanted.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Did they tell him 10 days?
I don't know if they told him 10 days now.
What?
I just know they literally text itakuja.
After 2 weeks, it will come.
Right. And it seems somewhat deliberate.
So it's not the same. It's not the same experience for everybody.
Absolutely not. And it was, I think it was like that for a while. There was a period where replacing an ID was instant. And now it seems to be such an uphill task.
Yeah. Even at the moment, I have my friends who joined first year last year, and they had just turned 18. And so they turned, the next day they showed up because they have to join uni with a ID card. They go to register. Those people have got their IDs literally in May. Last month but one. Since August. Yes. And the question also is, why should I go to Huduma in Kibra, not Huduma in GPO? What makes that this one is more efficient than this one? I think
that was just a factor of lines mostly. But yes, again, the efficiency should be across the board. Should be across the board.
And if it's standard 2 weeks, it should be standard 2 weeks. And if not 2 weeks, then it should get notification with a proper explanation of why, and then also give you an alternative. You wanted an ID so that you can use it to, enroll to university. You can open a bank account. You can do all those things. So now, without an ID, how do you open a bank account? Without an ID, how do So, if you're the one who's delayed me, then facilitate me to get all these services that I should be getting. Big question there. Let me just read a couple of more comments because many fixers are enjoying what you've been doing. John Gadura says, great conversation. Mokaya says, Jeremiah will be out on July 7th. So we amend Monday. Nana man will be there. Young Prince says, one time siku zote. Sasa wewe.
Oops.
Sasa wewe. Okay. Whitney Akinyi says, lovely insights. Namai says, go Jeremiah, so proud of you. You're the change that we need. I'm so proud of this Gen Z Jeremiah. That's Joyce. Many people who hear what you and your co-hosts have done. You and Mike, and you decided, you know what, from Model UN, we see all these conversations. We see that we need to have conversations on local politics and governance and development and local issues. Let's set up this platform where people would easily be able to join. So let's look at it and see from our community, it's easier if we can use this platform, Google Meets. People already know we are targeting students. They already know how to use this. So let's just go there and do it. To what end? hii kitu mnataka igrow numbers alafu mtuuze ama mnataka
hapo kwa kuuzwa actually offers have even come because I think the moment people see what you are doing is creating positive change, they would like to co-opt you.
Of course.
Yeah, so you just look at the values. I remember the former presidential candidate in Nigeria, she was on the show once. I was one time in a meeting which she was speaking.
She has a long name.
Yeah, that's why
I was trying to
remember. But she's called Obi.
Obi
is easy. Dr. Obiazeli.
Yes. And
Dr. Obi
mentioned the fact of sticking to your values. And the moment you stick to your values, even your price goes high. So in as much as to what end Semezana, we'll say it's until we see change. And even once we see change and maybe we grow faint, there are people to pick it up. It's like the mantle of what we've been seeing in the Bible in terms of leadership. For example, Israel. When Saul times was up and he got tired, it went to David. When David got tired, it went to his son Solomon. So even with such things, it is looking at a long term. It's not like once 2027 comes in and we see it has not gone our way, we're going to give up. Or once it also goes our way, we're also going to stop because we've achieved and now no, it's going to be progressive because there is continuous need for our country to be civically engaged and civically informed.
100 people is a good number, but I'm sure you'd like to see it grow.
Yeah.
From these 100 that come in, what's the level of engagement? And what's the level of awareness? Like, are they coming in because they want to come in? Are they coming in and returning? Are they coming in and helping to evangelize and recruit others and grow your numbers? Are you seeing a growth in this movement of young people who want to engage and have these conversations?
Yeah. First off, I'll answer by a proverb Janet gave once: play a drum and play it so well, and within due time we'll dance to the tune. Semezana started last year in September, and it started with a very small number. Remember the first edition, we were like 8 people on the call. 8. And through that, people drew consistency, number one, because young people also feel out of consistency. I've tried it out, it's not my thing. Yeah, maybe we try it another way. And so through the consistency of the space, we were able to get consistent numbers until I'm aware, come rain, come sunshine, on traffic or not, Latif is going to join this call and is going to actively engage. There are people who you constantly know, half the number actually. And then through that, they've been able to disseminate that campaign through their platforms. And now we have even new people join in. I am so and so. Now when we're concluding the space, and then they're like, I love this conversation. I'm going to tell my friends about it. I remember on the Tuesday that the Hoka Boniface karaoke was shot. May soul rest in peace. That day, I had a work meeting at night. But messages started flooding on my phone. People now that I don't know. We need Semezana tonight. We need to talk about what has happened in the country today. And so through that, it gave me a perspective that, oh, wow, it's going out and it's going out constructively. Because there's that bit of going out because you are now getting viral. And I think that is a part where also the oldies are also mistaking us. Some
oldies. Again. This age is insane.
Yes, we're not doing this because we want to be viral. Somebody once said we're going to the streets also just for TikToks and KFC. No. Some of us, it's something that is deeply personal to us. We are feeling the need. Used to premiere these things on TV, on Mashujadi. We see where Dedan Kimathi came from. There is something you planted in us then. And so when today we come out and now put it as an output, I don't understand now you are trying to now make us seem like we want to go viral.
Right. Just because you can walk and chew gum.
Exactly.
Make a TikTok and
still get engagement and and have people now actively engage in it and get education to it. Because previously our parents used to rely on, actually that time is when we had mayors and the chief. It's until chief amekuja akasema there is a report imetoka kwa serikali kasema A, B, C, D. It's when our parents will get the information.
That's how they know.
Yeah, that's how they know.
Kujeni baraza siku fulani. Fungeni maduka. Funga duka. Tunakutana.
Yeah, but right now there is a different style of doing things. I'll open my Instagram today, go live for an hour. but through that 1 hour, today people have been able to know there is this clause on the Finance Bill 2025 which says this and this. And through that, now there is a conversation that goes on my posts through the comment section. You see that? I'll put up a poll on my Instagram stories and people will be able to engage through it and get to learn from it. So that aspect of now profiling young people as doing these things out of the thing to go viral, I'll say it's a misconception. And it's also not...
So you still haven't answered my question, Jeremiah. So what do you want out of this?
What you want out of this?
Why are you doing it? I mean, why are you putting so much effort into this?
Yeah, it's to have all the young people get to understand what do they need for this country. Because we say we are the leaders of today, not even tomorrow. But even if we are the leaders of today, what are you doing today? That's the question. So that's the end goal for Semezana. That's what we are doing today. We want young people to actively and constructively engage in meaningful conversation that are intriguing, aiming at change.
Well, we have just about a few minutes, just before we wrap up. There's the organizing, there's the moving now beyond this into something else, right? We're trying to figure out what can be the ideologies that drive this movement, right? So that everybody who shares these ideologies can be part of the change that we're looking to see. When you think of the things that would unify people across generations, across social stratus, across tribe, across everything, and that could be a unifying ideology, what do you think those things are?
Basically, number one is our needs. Every time we go to vote, we are voting out of a point of need at the same time. That today, if we elect Latif, he's going to address the need of a good road in Kariobangi South. Today, when we go nominate Mariam as a senator on Senate, she's going to address the issue of femicide in the country. So the unifying factors for Kenyans, because we all have different lifestyle and we stand for different things. But shida anymore. Today, when Westlands Road floods were in Waiyaki Way, Rich in a Matatu, in a Prado, we are all experiencing a flooded.
But I have to challenge you. Those are our needs are not ideologies.
All right.
They're not like value systems. They're not, anything. They are true. They can unify us, but it's temporary, right?
It's temporary,
it's
true.
RMG must go. And then the ideology is the and then, right? So then what do you think is the and then that can shikilia us?
All right, I now get you. Come to our ideologies. I'll basically say standing out of what our constitution stipulates and also the mandate we got from our forefathers, education during the ends Kenyatta. The ideologies that they passed down to the people that came presiding in the leadership. And so through that, these different ideologies like good governance, they've remained constant.
True.
That's why every time we have to elect new leaders, because we think you're going to give something different from the previous leader. So I'll say ideologies like good governance, quality education, as well as access to good healthcare, they are going to unify us as Kenyans because they are now stemming down also to our needs and problems.
They are 100%. As we wrap up, when we think of the next steps, it's a lot of information that needs to be disseminated. It's a lot of work that needs to be done. People are doing the work and are continuing to do the work. But what do you think is the greatest pushback that's happening? Is it internal? Is it external? And by external, I mean the state and all of that. Or is it internally that people are dismissive or not wanting to participate?
I'll say it's both. There are those who are very intentional to the good cause and sticking to the movement. But there are those who are like, they are yet to understand. Let me say that. They're yet to understand why we need to do A, B, C, D. But come to the external bit, as I've said, the status quo is very much deliberate to compromise what the young people of this country are trying to build. Because I've spoke of handouts. They're deliberately trying to disillusion the youth movements that are there. We've seen even the stall of, for example, movements. We've seen a bill that has been proposed on the National Assembly, matters protests. That is deliberate because it's a public facility which is accessible to every person or citizen in the country. So I'll say when it comes to the challenges and the barriers, they are coming both internally and externally.
Okay.
Yes.
Oof.
James the Great says, let the message be clear to the powers that be and to the nation at large. A generational shift is taking place and there's nothing we can do to stop it. We must either ship up or ship out. Kevin says, I'm proud of you, my brother. Continue being a voice. Good job, Jeremiah. Nikisonga mbele. That's Teresa Minor. Mokaya says, Gen Z's go hard or go home. Choose your poison. Still, Mike the One says, when you stick to your values, your price goes up. Protect this guy by all means. Emmanuel Templar, the only sober-minded opposition seems to be Kalonzo. That's commenting about the news fix that was talking about, you know, the leaders going across the country. Gladys Cairo, keep moving forward, Jeremiah. I'm so proud of you. I pray for your success. We all work towards fixing the nation. We need to semezana as a country. Mokaya again. Prof. Clint says, drop your contact. Namerudia. Jeremiah, let a number. You shall tell us how.
Seasoned assignment pia alikuwa amesema share contact for more engagement out here while bridging this intergenerational gap. And I think I've seen another third person ask. So perhaps tutatupatia either link.
How do we join the Semezana conversations? You're saying it's once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So you held one on Thursday last week. The next one is next week on Thursday.
Yeah, next week on Thursday.
At 7 p.m.
8 p.m.
8 p.m.
Yeah.
What's the link?
The link is attached on our Instagram bio. It's usually constant. So once you follow us on Instagram, you're able to.
What are we following on Instagram?
Follow on Instagram at Semezana. That is S_Emezana.
S_Emezana.
Okay. And then you follow there, you'll find the link.
Yeah.
Link in bio.
Link in bio.
Okay.
Yes.
Follow link in bio. Dennis ananiambia I can be a Gen Z nikisema una diglo.
Una diglo?
Dennis, kudiglo kitambo, boss. Proud of you. Winning Gayo also says the same. The Conversations for Change, what a good platform for youth to air their views. That's Wesley. So many people who are hearing this and they're like, okay, I think this is a good platform. This is a good thing to have. And so this platform is hosted by you, Jeremiah, Muuo, and
Mick
Amani. Na Mika kwa hapa?
Ndio.
Mika kuja hivi, uonekane kwa kamera pia kidogo.
Usalimiane tu. Ile salamu mzuri.
Pitia hapo nyuma as we say goodbye and saying what's coming up next, right?
Real quick, as Mick is coming, we'll be transitioning to your world. Of course, we have the amazing ladies, pale kuna Mwekali na kuna Winnie, and we'll be talking to them, and they'll be having an amazing show. I'm trying to see who will be on the roster today. Sijapata bado, but of course, be sure to tune into your world. And of course, on Nation FM as well, Brian Aseli, Claudia Naisabwa are taking over on the Vibe Shift. They'll be there with you until 2 p.m. So spend your time pale. Kama when you are radio, kama when you are NTV, of course, we'll be keeping up with you. Aya basi, Mick salimiana.
Mick ndo huyo, just wave to the people. Yeah. So huyo ndio anakuanga huyo Mick. Ndio huyo anakuanga Mick Amani. Yeah. And these are the guys who are doing Semezana. Good guys. Good guys. This is how we fix the nation. What you do for yourself, just like Wangari Maathai said, right? It's like the what bird?
The hummingbird.
The hummingbird. Yeah, it's what you do. Asanteni sana. Thank you for tuning in to our conversation today. We have this every weekday, Monday to Friday, one conversation at a time from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. It's usually Janet Bogwa, Mariam Bishar, and Eric Latif. Janet has been away today, but she'll be back tomorrow. Have a lovely day. See you tomorrow.